for me, it's just really trying to maintain a set of well-ordered priorities that can hopefully make better judgment, but never going perfect because things keep moving on you. Just got to keep adapting every day.
In today's episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, I'm one of your hosts, David Gilliland. We have the privilege of having Brett Morris with us, the owner of WhoHire. Welcome to the show, Brett.
Thank you, David. Good to be here.
I have so many great entrepreneurs that I talk with in the Florida area, and delighted to have you on also, Brett. Uh, get us started here. Tell us just briefly, why did you start WhoHire? How did this journey begin, and exactly who do you serve?
Yeah, so some years back, I'd had a lot of experience working with medium to large enterprises, and all those companies. I'd noticed that they really didn't have a good handle on, and this was down to the SMBs as well. Didn't really have a good handle on what was the sort of person that was the right person for the right job role. Consequently, in all these companies, even the most sophisticated, they would hire a truckload of people, and many of them, 30, 40, 50% of them, would be gone within 6 to 12 months. And I thought that was a problem that was worth solving because no one else was solving it in a really comprehensive, holistic way. So we started attacking this problem a little less than 10 years ago, and since then have evolved a, a deeply forensic product that allows us to better understand the DNA of an individual that's best suited to each of the different job roles, over 100 different job roles that we've done this for. We've been serving large enterprise, medium-sized enterprise, but we're now quite tightly focused on the home services trades, and that's lots of different companies in there, including garage service and roofing and plumbing and electrical and HVAC and so on. So those trade companies in home services, very big segment, and a lot of people working in that area is the main area that we serve today.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, not just the big companies. You serve some of these smaller trades with 2, 3, 4 crews.
Yes, exactly. And we built we engineered the platform, a technology platform, to really optimize hiring and retention. And we built that originally for enterprise. So it's an enterprise grade platform. But about 3 years ago, we got a real intro into the opportunity around the smaller companies and in the trades. And we decided that this was a good opportunity to take this enterprise grade technology and bring it to the smaller businesses.
I love that. We love serving small businesses too. So I'm always delighted to find people who are doing great things. Uh, Brett, that's fantastic. Now, I mean, you're growing your own team. You've had to hire your own people. You're leading them. Well, you probably learned a few key things in business growth along the way. And since you've been to this million plus phase, what have you learned? What's some insights, some knowledge, some things that you think that have really helped you and maybe will help our listeners too?
Yeah, and there's a number of key learning points. There's a number of inflection points that you reach and have to work your way through. I think every day one of the things that I have to work on, and I think this is true for most, is not getting caught up working in versus on the business, and the need to work, really on what you're doing. What are you doing to grow? What are you doing to, make sure you're tweaking the products and services and the people that you're serving, and the need to do that constantly is ever present. So that's one part of not being trapped of so busy doing, you're no longer working on what you're doing. And the other piece is managing. This is a really tough piece that I don't hear enough people talk about, but I think they all experience it, is the emotional roller coaster that goes with all of that. And, that emotional roller coaster is really demanding. It's not the physical tiredness or demands that can get you. It's, for me, it's certainly it's that emotional roller coaster that comes with all of the pressures that you deal with in building a business, serving customers, staying scrappy, and so on.
Yeah, that is certainly challenging. Um, I mean, all of us feel that. Now, Brett, what are you doing there? Like, you know what? This is working for me. This piece, I'm doing this little trick. Here's my hack, or here's my process that's helping me either with the working on the business or the dealing with all the personal head trash and the ups and downs of, success, top of the mountain to failure. You're down in the bottom of the valley, right? Valley of despair is what I like to call it sometimes. How are you managing that or leading out powerfully to get through those things?
Yeah, I don't think there's any one right answer. I've got my answer, but I don't think there's any one right answer. I think it's maybe a right answer for each individual, entrepreneur and the journey that they're on. I've got a checklist on the one hand of the 5 key things that in running a business I'm keeping a handle on constantly and working on those 5 pieces. But in tandem with that, in order to optimize sort of decision making, in other words, making good judgments on a daily basis, kind of like a golfer would on a course, hits a shot, gets into a position where they didn't plan to be, could be a bunker behind a tree or whatever. They have to constantly make decisions. In golfing, you call that like course management. In business, we do exactly the same thing every day. Doing business management, course management on a daily basis, just making corrections in terms of what we're doing. And I think in order to do that well and consistently well, we need to have, I find, well-ordered priorities. So if you've got well-ordered priorities, you can make better judgments and know what your priorities are. So if a decision comes up, you might have for a particular issue, it might be, those priorities might be: one, service to existing customers. Number two is sales of whatever you're selling to new customers. Third part might be management of the dollars, and the fourth part might be the happiness of the team, or for a particular issue. And you might make a judgment about how you handle a decision in relation to a particular issue, having priorities like that. So, if it doesn't impact issues 1, 2, and 3, then maybe the fourth one, the happiness of the team, can then take priority. But otherwise, if it impacts the management of the dollars, you say, no, we can't do that. We can't afford to allocate resources to that, even though that might be something that might make the team happy on the day, but might prejudice the business. So for me, it's just really trying to maintain a set of well-ordered priorities that can hopefully make better judgment, but never going perfect, because dealing with life and business and things keep moving on you. So just got to keep adapting every day.
Yeah, no, I think that's powerful to get clear about your priorities so that when things come up, the course management is easier and faster. You're not boiling the whole ocean. You're not trying to discover who you are every time a new question comes up.
Right.
You mentioned a checklist of 5 things. Was that your priorities or is that something else?
That's something else. Yeah, the priorities is more that okay, and the checklist for me is the 5 things that are prerequisites for the success in any business, and then I adapt them to what we're doing, to make sure that as a checklist, we're constantly sort of on point with each of them. And the first one of us is having a quality product or service. And by quality, I mean it fits the needs of the market that I'm serving. So it's a quality product and a service. In our case, it's a product with a service wrap around it. We sell a technology platform to optimize hiring and retention, and we put a very strong services wrap around that. But primarily, it's a technology platform that customers are able to use to do the job better for themselves rather than us doing. So from a product point of view, we're constantly tweaking that product and asking ourselves, are we creating the best value we can create every day to deliver value to the customers that we serve? Then the second part, number 2 on the checklist, is proper timing. Like there's the old saying about pioneers end up with arrows in their back, and that's because they went too early. And it's along that theme is that there is a right time in which to do certain things related to the introduction of ideas into the market. And you can be too early, you can be too late, and you can be on point. So thinking about timing. I think timing is one thing that maybe we don't give enough attention to. So the third piece on the checklist is capital, having sufficient capital and the ability to manage that capital effectively. And it's not just money, it's receivables, it's the total resources that you have at your disposal in a business and how you do that, and whether you do that certain thing at a certain time or whether you say, no, that's going to stretch us too much and we really should maybe hold back on that. It's a terrific idea, but the timing for it is wrong. So that capital and the management of those resources is the third one. The fourth one is a good people resource, and that means employees, and also as part of that, making sure we're bringing the right new people into the business at the right time to do the job that we expect. And then the fifth one is quality management leadership. And I mentioned that one last because it serves a foundation for the other four. In order to have quality products and services, you've got to make effective decisions about that. To have proper timing, again, good management and leadership decisions, capital and managing it, good management leadership decisions, and good people resource, good employee culture benefits, all of that piece, again, quality management leadership. So really everything begins and ends with quality management leadership. And I think that focusing on that and understanding that for me has been, it's a daily work in progress, and many days it's a grind because that's what goes with the territory.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, I took notes, right? Yeah, you're thinking then every day, is the product market fit right? Is the timing still on, or is it shifting? Do we have the capital resources that we need? Are the people, the right people at the right time where they need to be? And then are we leading and managing them? So we're basically having focused, aligned efforts, right? So we're pulling all together the right direction and building the rest of this. A lot of us at this stage are not thinking about all of those things. Most of us are sometimes thinking, okay, I got to deliver on this customer need. I got to close some more deals. And the demands pull at us to where sometimes we forget the big picture. What are you doing to keep the big picture not just in your mind, but in the mind of your other leaders and your team members?
I think that's the challenge we all face, right? And and uh, and I that just it's just something that goes with the territory. But for me, being able to keep it's a question of balance. You're trying to keep that balance because you will get sucked in to the weeds on a customer issue, and you should be. And in fact, no matter your role, but particularly the more senior you are, if you're not staying close to how customers are thinking and behaving and voting on your business, then you're not, in my opinion, as in touch as you should be. So you need to be doing that stuff, but it's also a double-edged sword because it'll suck you in and maybe bury you. So it's getting some balance from that, and I think you have to just work on that. And whether that's writing, a digital note in your calendar that brings it up daily or weekly. It says, are you doing these things constantly to sort of keep thinking about the strategic things you should be thinking about, but not obsessing about, but just thinking about whilst you're doing a lot of those day-to-day tasks that involve and things that you get sucked into as a result of. That's just the nature of the business nature of business, right? And then the other piece is getting a break from that, trying to get to the gym as much as I can to stay physically, sharp. Going out on the weekend and playing some golf so I can get some R&R and get a head break. and having a beer. When I can. So those are some of the things on the other side of the coin, just to stay sane.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, I mean, all of us, I'm a business owner too, same little spot that you are in this 7-figure journey right now. And feeling that, we burn the candle at both ends, and sometimes we light it in the middle at the same time, right? Like, just, and to set time aside personally so that our mind can get clear, so that our body is in top shape, because that body is what our mind is feeding off of and working from. Like, the body's got to be sharp if the mind's going to be sharp. And I appreciate that insight, to schedule the time and put it there to care for those things. I want to dive just a little bit more into this idea of working on the long term of your business, because we're never sucked in and pulled into the weeds of the long term. Usually it's always on the short term, right? That's what we're pulled into. It's urgent, it's now, it's customer fulfillment, it's sales, it's collections, it's it's the IT issue that just came up, it's that programming bug that's slowing everything down. It's all of that. Critical and important things. And yet, uh, the business and the leaders, so the business we need to have and the leader we need to become 6 months from now is totally different than what we are today. Like, we have a lot of work to do, and we have to be that in the future. If our business is going to grow to that next level, we have to be the leader, and the business has to be built that direction. Now, it's not something, well, I have it or I don't. We can become it, right? So there's work, there's intentional work. uh, what what are the big goals that you have for your business? Let's say 3 years out. How much larger are you planning on being, Brett?
Uh, Probably at this stage, 10 to 20 times the size we are now.
Okay,
Uh,
so you're talking about serious growth,
hmm.
not kill yourself growth. In a tech space, 10 to 20x in 3 years time is a hard drive, but
Hmm.
doable. Okay, so it's
We,
doable, but it's a hard drive.
we think so, yeah. And to your point, the challenge we all face is the urgent drives out the important.
Ah,
So being clear about what is important, where do we want to go to, where do we want to get to, what's it going to take, what sort of capital is it going to take, what sort of actions and plan is it going to take, how many customers do we need to acquire, how are we going to deliver that, how are we going to scale the product delivery capability, how are we going to tweak that product with that sort of scale, and just thinking through that and acting on it, and being in the weeds as is necessary from time to time, doing the urgent stuff and doing the stuff that comes with admin and compliance and yada yada, is to me the way I live it, the difference between managing and leading. So
yeah,
if we're focusing on just doing those things, there are certain management is essential, um, because there are day-to-day stuff that has to be looked after, and if it doesn't get looked after, things fall apart real quick. Like nothing like some chaos, right? Just to get suck us back in. But and the leading piece is thinking about what's important, and it's innovating and being scrappy every day and being paranoid and being thinking about um, you know how do we ensure that we always make payroll. Sounds like a simple issue, but it never is, because I don't think unless you've had to make payroll on a Friday, you haven't lived, because it focuses.
well, we all feel that one, don't we, Brett?
Right? And that's important, because the I think the true purpose of trying, all the things that you might do, all the innovations you might do, all the leadership that you might apply, is the purpose of all of that is to provide for the continuation of the business. And
Yeah, absolutely. I
there,
I
yeah,
want to I want to dive into just a little bit for a second, because this idea of working on the strategic and especially to set aside time and space to do it is a critical piece. But it's not just the time and space. We have to build processes that will build our team into thinking on the strategic and long term with us. Because as we grow in size, additional problems and issues come to us as the leader and bog us down. And so the more we can get the team owning those problems, those issues, or thinking ahead and owning some of the direction with us, that's the lift we're looking for. You don't do 10 and 20x in 3 years with Brett being the smart guy directing it all, right? It's
No.
just not possible. So, uh, do you have a rhythm today where you bring your team together on, let's say, quarterly or trimester, whatever that setup is, where they take a day or two thinking about the environment, scanning the environment, the timing, the new shifts in the market, where we may need to pivot, uh, what it looks like, how what we may need to do differently for cash flow. Is this time to seek funding or not, right? Or can we bootstrap this more? 10 and 20x tends to require some funding, but maybe not, right? Like, are you thinking on a quarterly basis with team members to build them so that they're beginning to think like a business owner?
No.
Let,
Um, and the reason why is, um, I think in some ways, the idea that this is something that we might be doing, as you described it, quarterly, weekly, monthly, and so on, is almost, um, to me, there's a certain redundancy about it. And so what we've tried to do is we try to build that into the everyday communications of the way we run the business, and we're trying to do what you might do if you pulled everyone aside and spoke about it into what we're communicating every day. It means building in a lot of, the why behind why we're doing what we're doing into the everyday, because then you're connecting the bigger picture to the everyday picture, because there's a better understanding of why we're doing what we're doing and how it connects that. If we do this well, this happens. If we do this, this happens, and this leads to this outcome. And getting that connection and have it happening every day. And, um, when I used to spend time in other businesses, the one word that I used to hear often that they thought they weren't doing very well was the communication piece, right? They'd always say, we need to communicate better, communicate better. And so we try and build that into what we're doing, because in many ways, every member of the team is connected to the outcome that we're trying to deliver. No one lives in a silo or a box where they can operate in isolation. They have to do something that's connected, and everyone does. Everything that everyone does is connected in some way. It has an impact. So we try not to get into that meeting cycle, other than that, yeah, once a month we'll have an all hands meeting and we'll say, hey, what's up? Often that we'll just spend time talking to each other about what we've been doing socially and what we've been getting into. And it's not talking about so much about the business, but it's more about just kind of reconnecting with one another, not on the business issues. So that's kind of a little slightly different approach.
yeah. Well, and I'm going to push because that's what a coach does. And I'm going to say, I love the approach. How many founders are there, Brett? Is it just you?
I know there are two co-founders and a CEO equity partner. So, three primary equity partners that hold 70% of the business. And CEO is Jonathan Wisman. He's based in Phoenix. And then my co-founder partner, she is a IO psychologist, scientist, and data scientist, and she does all the smart work figuring out the DNA of a plumber or a roofer or a sales rep, and building that into a predictive model that you can run on candidates so that customers can.
Yeah.
So, two co-founders, one CEO, three primary executive shareholders.
Do you have anyone who has more than 8 people reporting directly to them right now?
No.
All right. This is where the shift is that I'm going to talk about then. and it's a complexity game. Where you are today, because you have so many who are literally owners or president, CEO of the business, so many who think like business owners, you're doing exactly what you should be. The regular touching, talking, you're all so tightly engaged in all of it. When you get to a size that you have team members being hired on that you are not hiring or that you're not touching on a daily basis, that um, that organic way of sharing information begins to fall apart.
Yep.
And so it's not an either or, it's an and. It just takes one more step to say, let's ensure the leaders are all engaged and that we have a way to engage team members that may not be being pulled in anymore. By the time you've got developers that are, tier 2 or whatever developers, and you're not seeing and connecting with them, is their leader having those kind of meaningful conversations? Are they building that on the regular? And do departments or teams start thinking very strategically from their position, which is great. We want them to do, but not understanding strategically who's the dog and who's the tail inside the business.
Mm.
Which group do we actually have to have win this quarter, this next quarter, or this year? We have to have them leading out, and the rest of us may subvert, hold back on some of our strategic priorities in order to do more focus in supporting the one. So that bigger level of organization, and it normally comes when your teams are, so let's say if you were a business and you were the founder and there was no one else and there was 12 or 15 of you, you would already need to have a little bit of time to talk because you're starting to not be able to touch everything. But when you have as many founders as you have, you're probably going to get to 25, 30 people before it will be necessary, and I do mean necessary, to pull aside some time to get clear strategically within the organization, where's the priority? So we get the priorities really clear and then do exactly what you're doing. That daily stuff, man, that is just the right way to go. So they hear it. The message was established. All four of us agreed. Now that's the message. Until all four of us agree, it's a different one. We are tight on it. We're working through it. We're thinking about it. We're pivoting accordingly. We have our priorities set, or I shouldn't put plural. We have our priority set, right? There's one that wins, and we get really clear around it.
Mm.
I think it's anyway. Those are some thoughts. Tell me why it's a bad idea, even as you grow.
No, I think it's exactly what's needed, and I think what's needed within that growth is the one thing that's very difficult to maintain is a consistency in certain things, but let's say consistency in processes. And as that organization grows and new people get brought in by people that I don't get to meet, interview, I want to have, and this is actually this is actually a part of the solution that we develop for SMBs, is to give them a consistent process for not just automating their entire hiring process from end to end, but actually within that being able to identify the right person for the right job role. So no matter whether you grow from 25 to 50 to 100 to 500, you've got a consistency by which you're identifying the right people that's going to build the bench of the business consistently well. And we see that as, well, let me reverse it. In almost every business, most businesses, there is good system technology around managing cash and finance, around managing logistics and parts, managing if you're doing service jobs, managing tickets and field service, around managing almost every part of the business. And then with the people side of the business, you've got human management businesses, whether you call them HRIS or HCM, etc. How you manage payroll and all those other pieces. You've got those pieces. One thing that's missing that we saw a big issue and then worked on developing is intelligence about the team itself and who we've got who we need to be bringing in, and how do we get better consistency around that. And that piece was a really tough piece because to date it's primarily been driven by instinct, gut feel, experience, and those are all valuable, and we don't want to get rid of those, but we do want to supplement it with evidence and data that can come from the business and many other businesses and be pulled together to help optimize how we make decisions.
I love that. And it sounds like you've got a great one set up around role fit
Yes.
within the roles. We do quite a bit around the team or the culture values fit. Are we a fit to the company? And I'm certain your stuff is going to be able to play right into that space too. As you can then say, here's the way we survey, we pull the data about your company, so then we can match that too. Powerful tool. I love the idea. If Brett, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, your company, how would they find you?
Well, first way they could check us out is at whohire.com. And they get to that page and it'll say, hiring made simple. And that's the first way you can get hold of us. You can also get hold of me directly. You can find me on LinkedIn, Brett Morris, or you can give me a call. I'm on 941 266 6571.
Well, that is fantastic. We've got some great ways to get in touch with you then. And thank you again. That wraps up today's episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of the seven figure journey. Brett, thanks for being a guest on the show today and sharing your insights.
Thank you, David.
And for all of you listening in, I hope you'll do all the things you do to share, like all of that, to make this episode more available to all the other seven figure business owners out there. Keep striving, keep learning, keep caring, and keep pushing towards your goals. Until next time.